Welcome to our live stream today. I'm excited to share some well-known game stories and play them with all of you. Before we begin, I want to thank all of you for joining us today. I know your time is valuable, and I appreciate you spending it with us. Today, I'll be sharing some interesting insights and information with you all. There will also be time for Q&A at the end of the live stream. So don't hesitate to ask any questions you have. I hope you enjoy the live stream. *** greetings everyone. In this video, I will be discussing the story of a video game series that is considered one of the best of all time. It has two parts, and I will be narrating the story in the correct order, with the events of the second part taking place before the first. We will begin with Arthur, who was born in 1863 in the northern United States. During that time, the law was not in control, as there were many gangs, scattered tribes, and criminals everywhere. ****. When Arthur was a child, his mother died for unknown reasons. His father was a criminal who was arrested and accused of theft. Even after a period of imprisonment, he died, leaving Arthur an orphan. Although his relationship with his father was difficult, he kept his hat to remember him. Now alone, he began to commit petty crimes to survive. One day, he met a man named Dutch van der Linde, who was the leader of a gang consisting of several people. Their main activity was committing crimes like robberies and deceiving people to take their money through fake deals. ****. When Dutch saw Arthur at the age of 14, he adopted him and taught him how to read, write, hunt, fight, and ride horses. The gang became reliant on him to protect them as he grew older. Over time, many people joined them. One day, Arthur met a girl named Mary, and they fell in love. Arthur got close to Mary's family, but they rejected him because of his involvement in the world of crime. Mary's family refused to let him marry their daughter, and they eventually separated. ****. In 1885, Arthur met a 12-year-old boy named John Marston, whom the gang saved from execution. John will be the protagonist of the next part, but here he is still young. His story is that he was born to a Scottish immigrant father, and his mother gave birth to him on a boat while immigrating. However, she died shortly after his birth. In his early years, John lived with his father until one day, his father was blinded due to a fight at a bar. He then died under mysterious circumstances. John was sent to an orphanage, where he spent a few years before being kicked out to live on the streets. He tried to find ways to make money, and this is where his life of crime began. He committed his first crime at the age of 11 by shooting and killing a man. He was later arrested while robbing a house, and they planned to execute him. This is when Arthur intervened and saved him. ****. John became a member of the gang, and they trained him. He and Arthur became close friends like brothers. Over the years, Arthur and John became known for robbing banks and stealing money. They would then go to orphanages and distribute the money to the poor, pretending to be good people. ****. After several years, Arthur met Abigail and married her. They had a son named Isaac, but Arthur couldn't stay with them all the time because of his role in the gang. He would return to see his wife and son for a while, and then disappear for months. Whenever he returned, his wife would tell him that Isaac was a good child. One day, Arthur returned to his wife and son and found strangers outside his house. He discovered that thieves had killed his wife and son for a small amount of money. This event deeply affected Arthur's psyche and caused him great pain. ****. John met a woman named Abigail, who joined the gang and married John. They had a son named Jack. During this time, the United States was changing rapidly. In 1899, the government decided to crack down on outlaws, fighting gangs and trying to imprison or even execute them. This put Arthur and the gang in danger, but it didn't stop them from committing crimes and robberies. Hunting trip and takes the baby Jack and returns it to his mother. Then he goes to meet Zaim and Hadash and tells him that he is a lawman looking for him and that we must find a new place other than this. But I tell him that there is no need for anyone to worry and that we must act calmly now, especially since we have been stable for a long time. We must think before we make any decision. After a few days, John decided to have a drink for Arthur. When he arrived at the place, he entered, and there he found Dutch and began to talk to him. But they only continued for a few moments until a person appeared outside, claiming that he was the owner of the train that Arthur and John attacked before, and here he arrived there with...
What exactly is the matter with you?
His followers then asked him to leave the place, because he was holding 2 hostages with him, and he was going to kill them. He was coming to take revenge for their theft of his train, so both Dash and Arthur came out. When he stopped him, and after a few moments, Arthur hit the people holding the hostages and killed them. After that, a big battle began inside the town between the Dutch Corn Gang, by God, and it became. There was very intense shooting between 2 gangs, and during the battle, one of the gang members was injured, and then they put him in a car, dragged by their enemies, until they rode their horses and left the place. After this battle, Dutch knew that the men-in-law were going to come to their headquarters, so he decided with his gang that now they must change their location, so he asked Athar and Charles to search. About a suitable area, saying that Mika told him that it was in a well-hidden place in one of the areas, and that he should go and check if it was suitable, so that the place would be new for the gang. So, Charles and Arthur set off, and when they approached the campsite, Mega took them to it, and there they found the body of a man from Maya. And they saw that it was, "This is a serious warning that a problem has occurred here." When they arrived at the camp, they found it empty until they saw a hidden family consisting of a mother and 2 children, but they spoke German. When Arthur tried to reason with them that they should go, the little girl told them that a gang had kidnapped her father, so Charles told him, "Let us go and wake him up," and he agreed. Arthur lay on the ground until they finally reached an area near a lake called Flatiron, where his father found the little girl tied up on the ground. And when they all untied it, it was likely that this was pride, and indeed my hidden nerves appeared. They began to attack them, but the 2 of them defeated the gang, and then Athar decided that he would tell Dutch about this area, the one next to the lake, and it will be more suitable until it is transferred to my account, and then he takes the man and returns him to his family. Here he rewards Arthur with a gold bullion for him. He leaves, while the gang moves to the new camping site, and there they say that it is excellent, and then he returns with several thefts to support the camp with enough money to continue. But after a few days, I heard a gang that the Out Gang was planning a meeting with them, so that there would be a truce between them with the leader of the gang who was against them, especially since the problems between them had been going on for years and had not been resolved, and they had to find a solution, although some of the members believed that this meeting would be a trap, and they refused. They left, but in the end, we agreed with the rest of the gang that he would accept the meeting, and that Athar would protect them if anything happened. There, everyone who had their members with them arrived at the meeting place, while Arthur was watching through snipers, so that if anything happened, he would interfere with the meeting. He accused Kondak of being the reason for his brother's death, because I loved her, of course, after the heated conversation between them, when they were about to comment on how Arthur was ready to intervene. But suddenly, individuals appeared behind him and beat him for Athar, and then they kidnapped him. He did not know what had happened to the leader, and he did not open his eyes and heard the gang members against them saying that they wanted to detain Arthur so that he could answer. The rest of his gang and handed them over to lawmen or the police. When they saw that Arthur had almost woken up, they beat him several times until in the end, they shot him in the shoulder, seriously wounding him. He also fainted, and after a while he woke up and found himself hanging, and in front of him an uncle who was interrogating him, and that he was where his gang was. But the impact of what he answered, so he got up. The second one was hit hard despite the wound he had, and because I don't say anything about the last thing he left behind, Arthur saw a knife on the table, so he took it and freed himself. Then, using a candle, he tried to make his wound heal so he wouldn't get infected. He was dizzy with people from his place attacking some of the guards and taking a horse and running away, until he finally arrived at a camp. His gang and the rest of them gathered around him and put him on the bed and treated him. This period took several weeks, and after he finished recovering, he was brought before Sharif Gray, the official in charge of the village near them. He was transporting several criminals inside an Arab car, and while they were waiting for the train to pass by or there, they gave him false names. So I ransacked him, trying to convince him that he would free one of the people. His gang, which he is, was all framed up. But during their conversation, the criminals who were decorated unlocked the prison and then escaped and got on the train. Fadash and the rest of their gang helped Sheriff Gray, not showing him that he was a real person, and because of the help they provided, they were able to convince the sheriff to release O'Shea. After this mission was attempted, the gang was hoping for a lot of money, so they stole a drinks cart for a family that was requested from Sheriff Gray. And when they stole it, they took the Arabs themselves and tried to sell them to the family they stole them from. But the woman, the head of the family, when she met them, said that it was impossible to buy anything for her, and that it was certain that they would go to his office, where they would see him and kill him after they finished. When I returned to the camp, I hear that the Price White family kidnapped the child, Jack, in retaliation because they stole their horses. The leader is not satisfied with this thing, so he prepares all the men in his gang to attack his family to get the child back. He leads him to a terrible scene in front of the house, and there he shouts at them about how they took a small child because of some problems. He was among them and asked them to return him, but the family refused, and there a group of armed men appeared, and a major battle began between Dutch and Athar's gang and the Braith White family. At first, they fought them from the outside until they killed most of the guards, and then they entered the house and killed everyone present, including the woman Catherine. So they took her outside the house after they did not burn down her house and asked her about the whereabouts of the child Jack, nor did she refuse at first. She even told them the latter under threat. She said that one of her sons had given Jack to a man named Angela, one of the major Italian criminals who lives in the city of S. After the gang left her, after they destroyed everything for her, he possesses it and returns to the camp after their last battle. Officer Milton and Ross arrive at their place, the same officer who showed Arthur the previous time, telling them that he is now in a civilized area, but you are facing many problems. Montag demands that he surrender himself. If you do, he will allow the rest of his members to go and that they will be free. But Dash refuses, and his whole group refuses. You accept this thing, so they prepare their weapons to kill them. And I do not blame them by telling them that you must leave now, because if you do that, I will come the next time with 50 men to fight you, and then I will leave. And because of this threat, Dutch and the gang decided that it would seem that they should collect their things while he goes and search in one of the areas for a place that the gang can find. She settles in and leads him to an old house, but they do not storm it. But they find a small gang inside who kills them, takes the bodies and throws them into the swamp to be eaten by nearby crocodiles. And then the gang moves to the place. When Dutch, Arthur, John, and the child Jackie were kidnapped, they settle. In the new area, they decide to go down to look for the Bronte man who had the child with her, and they do not return him. And when he arrived in the city of Sandness in Bronte's place, and in the end, he knew his place in the group of children who stole his wallet. But of course, after they returned it to him, they told him about the man's location. When they arrived, they met him, and he was under the protection of his guards, and they asked him to return Jack's child, with Bronte saying that now he no longer needs him. But first, the child wants them to carry out a mission for him, which is that they go and eliminate the grave thieves, and in return, the child will return to us. John and Arthur agree to the mission, and we wait for the night to come, after which he sneaks into the cemetery and sees people trying to rob the graves. Here they sneak them, but after them, a larger group of the gang arrives. They entered into a battle with them until they were all killed. After finishing, they returned to Bronte's palace. Then, they brought back the child Jack and took him with them to the camp on the way. Jack told them that Bronte was a good person, and he also gave him a private room and good food all the time. After a while, the Italian man Bronte invited Arthur to a private party. The rest are at the city mayor's headquarters, and as soon as they arrive there, Bronte introduces them to the guests who are present at the party, and then tells them that he wants them to steal something, and they must carry it out. The mission is that in a station in the city, there is a lot of money, and he asks them to steal it. and they agree to do it, of course, in exchange for them taking the money and in return. The next day to carry out the mission, he took Arthur with him, and they stormed the place and told the employees that they must open the door to steal the safe. Otherwise, they would kill them. But then, the employee told them that they did not have any money in the first place. But Loon opened the door, and after he entered it, they actually thought about the safe. They found only a little money, and it turned out that he tricked them, betrayed them, and sent them to steal. But he told the police chief, and then the three of them became trapped in the station. But they were able to use the inner city train to escape from the lawmen, and Grace fought them, and then they were able to escape. And at the same time, Dutch began to want to get revenge because he sent them on this mission and betrayed them. So he prepared his gang members to attack the Italian man's palace for revenge. From him, he took Arthur, Bill, Johnny, and Thomas with him. They went to Bronte's headquarters and tried to infiltrate, and there they fought with the guards. Finally, they reached Bronte's, who was hiding in the house, and then John punched him, and Arthur carried him to the basement and took him with them to the boat to reach the swamp. When the man woke up, the Dutch people told him that it was him. Stupid person. And his followers who have no God, offer them $1,000 to betray him and then throw him into the water so that the crocodiles can eat him. This is the reason why the self-made individuals were shocked if he did it. When he returns to their headquarters after a while, they are sitting and discussing it, and the lawmen attack them a second time because they settled the problems of the city of Saint Denis, so they rise up. Keep them away from them. But because they think that it is America, they no longer walk there because the country is trying to impose the law on everyone. Music. The rest of them tried to escape from them through the rooftops until they finally entered an abandoned house through the window. When they asked about John, they said that he had been killed. Arresting him, of course, the mission of robbing the bank was such a disaster for the gang that it would have destroyed it all. But many of their members were killed, and some of them were arrested, and now they became lost. The important thing is that after the rest of them entered the abandoned house, they hid in the apartment until nightfall because the police were deployed throughout the city. So he says, they told them that it was night, so they began to infiltrate the port to enter one of the ships and look out of the area. But during their infiltration at night, the police noticed one of the gang members, and he let them follow him, while the rest were able to reach the ship and board it without anyone knowing. Then they went to sleep, and on the morning of the second day, Arthur wakes up on board the ship that had left the city, and they were able to escape with the stolen money. There, Arthur sees that Dutch is there and talking to each other, and he does not say that he is going to talk to the captain of the ship, and they tell him that they are on his ship, and he is going to try to bribe him with the gold that they stole from the bank so that he knows where he is going. And when he speaks, he comes out. The man is kind and allows them to stay on the ship, and that he is now heading towards the South Pacific Ocean to Cuba. But as the ship was moving, one of the people pointed out that there is something huge in the sky and a very big day, and that it might cause them a problem during the travel. The important thing is that they continue their day normally until they sleep. But at night, Arthur suddenly wakes up. I find that there is a storm in the ship they are on, and everyone is in danger because the ship is sinking in the sea. So they try to escape, but I expect a wooden plank between Dutch and Arthur and do not let him follow me. So I find another way to reach the top of the ship. When I did, he saw how it was completely burning, and he also found members of his gang using boats. Those who were fleeing tried to call out to them, but no one responded, so he threw himself into the sea. And so after a while on one of the sandy beaches in tropical Algeria, Arthur woke up after surviving the last storm. He was especially tired because he had spent a period without food and water. He had no idea where he was, so he continued searching the island to ask for help from anyone, and in the end, I find his friends and the rest, and he was around the campfire. The first time they saw him, they were happy to see him, and that he was alive. So they gave them some water after they learned that they were considered like sugarcane farms in eastern Cuba, while a group of people were wondering what he should do, and the Huns were being ambushed by a local militia. It is led by a person who claims that the colonel's sugarcane trade is in a bad way, and he exploits its residents. The important thing is that the colonel accepts that the gang is tied up and that they should not cause him any problems so that they will not be punished. He tells them that now they are facing unrest on the island with the local residents. He just does not know any information about them. He does not know anything about them. They had an income, and he was going to release them. But at the same time, he was also telling his guards that a group had to take him to prison. And only a few minutes later, the soldiers were attacked by the rebels, and they launched a spear and helped Arthur and his gang members escape from them.